Trump will take office in less than a week. Will it be overwhelmingly positive for the next 4 years? Or will his policies have gone too far across the world stage?
This was a movement like nobody's ever seen before. Frankly, this was, I believe, the greatest political movement of all time. There's never been anything like this in this country, and maybe beyond.
Shutting down the border was one of Trump's promises that resonated with a large group of voters, and rightfully so. Immigration is a great thing that adds strength and culture to the country. There is a process for doing so, and it should be followed for not just the safety of American citizens, but to protect undocumented from landing in the laps of human traffickers. The Biden-Harris regime allowed tens of millions into the country blindly.
There will not be another foot of wall constructed on my administration.
Nobody has a clue on who got through or what ideologies they carried with them. Drug dealers, smugglers, and violent gang members, possible terrorists are now within the country, able to establish their presence. Homeless, epidemic, and below poverty living, drug and opioid addictions, along with untreated mental health issues, just adds to the problems. The influx of tens of millions more non-contributing people adds strain to policing, housing, hospitals, shelters, and food banks.
Mayor Martin's two biggest concerns are the strain on the hospital and housing. Logansport Memorial told us they are on pace for record births and more than 20,000 ER visits. 27% of their patients are also on Medicaid, and that puts a significant burden on OB care in Indiana. Immigrants and anyone else who can't pay sign up for presumptive Medicaid, apply for charity care, or a payment plan.
And what effect does it have on citizens of areas where new gangs are formed? Americans then live in fear and at risk of violent encounters and worse.
Yeah, guys, these are gangs formed from Venezuelan prisons that 2 years ago started showing up in Tennessee. Organized crime focusing on human trafficking that the TBI says is now once again being seen in the volunteer state.
Unbelievably, there are many who consider border restrictions as unethical and even racist.
Do you think that we should be looking to tear down the border wall that was built?
Yes.
Yes? Why do you say that?
Because I think everyone should have the opportunity to come. I don't really care that much if people come illegally or legally. Personally, I'm all for it.
Yeah. What about like any people who come in who might want to take advantage of a system or are criminals? Like not having a border wall might make it easier for those people to come in.
Well, it would, but I don't know. I feel like a border wall raises a lot of issues. Also the environment too. I just think it's a little overkill.
Tonight, 2 Venezuelan migrants are under arrest in Houston, charged with murdering 12-year-old Jocelyn Nungaray. Immigration authorities say the suspects crossed the border illegally earlier this year and were released into the U.S. by the Border Patrol. Police say the men strangled Jocelyn and dumped her body in a creek.
I don't really care that much if people come illegally or legally.
Even American citizens get vetted in some form. Credit scores, criminal record and background checks, and many others. Why does it become an issue to know the criminal status of immigrants? It's the same mindthink of providing identification when voting. Any questioning becomes racial or hate-inspired. Following up with securing the border, President Trump issued a statement towards the cartel.
In addition to restoring strong border security, I will deploy all necessary military assets, including the U.S. Navy, to impose the full naval embargo on the cartels. I did that before and it worked. What we did was incredible. We will guarantee that the waters of the Western Hemisphere are not used to traffic illicit drugs to our country. Furthermore, I will order the Department of Defense to make appropriate use of special forces, cyber warfare, and other overt and covert actions to inflict maximum damage on cartel leadership, infrastructure, and operations. I will designate the major cartels as foreign terrorist organizations. We will sever their access to global financial systems. I will also work to forge an unprecedented partnership with neighboring governments in our region, just like I did in Mexico.
Tom Homan, Trump's border czar, has provided some information regarding what can be expected under the new immigration policies.
Mass deportation hurt the economy.
I think mass deportation and results of mass deportation are more important to this country than anything. We're going to protect the national security of this country.
The mass deportation alone will stir strong emotions on both sides. Support from those who agree fully that Americans should and must come first. Those whom tend to live life by emotional response will view this as a humanitarian crisis. The border closing alone has drawn hysteria in some. Watching migrant families being loaded into buses and vans may be the trigger for a civil divide within the country. Desperate people do desperate things, and some of the migrants will not be willing to leave. Watching gang members, drug dealers and criminals being deported is one thing. Seeing a young family's home raided by armed agents will be harder to watch. What's the alternative? My father used to say, start wrong and end wrong. They came into the country illegally and now must face the judge. What's most unfortunate is so many were under the impression that coming in any way, that they'd be safe. The Biden-Harris government made many statements leading to this.
We would in fact make sure that we immediately surge to the border. All those people are seeking asylum. They deserve to be heard. That's who we are. We're a nation that says if you want to flee and you're fleeing oppression, you should come.
How many would have never tried if the rules were clear? Migrant deaths have been increasing year over year. Those deaths could have been avoided had border security been aggressively enforced. President Trump is clear with his path. Removing illegals and stopping undocumented crossings is going to benefit the country. Crushing cartels will drastically slow the influx of drugs and hopefully slow down human trafficking as well. We may see less drug-induced mental illness, deaths and homelessness caused from addiction. More housing will be freed up, leading to lower rents and housing costs. Money could be allocated to better services, such as medical and mental health care, possibly career training for trades and construction. His policies can definitely have positive results, but I feel we will see a year of unrest. The cartel will be at war against the United States, and they already have a foothold within the country. The illegals with criminal records know they will be rounded up first. Will this drive them into gangs hoping to fend off arrest? Will those opposing deportation cause civil unrest like we saw during the BLM riots? What are your thoughts? Comment below. Keeping with Trump's border, national security and America First policies, he has made some bold statements regarding Greenland, the Panama Canal, and even Canada.
Well, we need Greenland for national security purposes. I've been told that for a long time, long before I even ran. I mean, people have been talking about it for a long time. If Denmark has any legal right to it. But if they do, they should give it up because we need it for national security. That's for the free world. I'm talking about protecting the free world. But if they did do that, then I would tariff Denmark at a very high level.
Trump hasn't ruled out military intervention. He maybe could secure the canal without too much condemnation. But if military force was used in Greenland, there would be an uproar within Europe. Denmark particularly, as they supply military there and Denmark is a NATO member. National security is the public narrative for having control over Greenland. My thought is, it's more about securing and controlling trade routes and passage. There's virtually zero threat of Russia or China amassing a naval force to achieve any sort of ground offensive. Global surveillance basically prevents this kind of warfare from taking place. Trump stated trade was the reasoning for securing and controlling the Panama Canal. And the United States is buying icebreakers to send into the Arctic. Melting sea ice is exposing new shipping routes which global leaders want to secure. And what did President Trump have to say about Canada?
We don't need anything they have. We don't need anything. So why are we losing $200 billion a year and more to protect Canada? And I said that to Governor Trudeau. I said, listen, what would happen if we didn't subsidize you, if we didn't, because we give them a lot of money. We help them. As an example, we're buying icebreakers. And Canada wants to join us in the buying of icebreakers. I said, we don't really want to have a partner in the buying of icebreakers. We don't need a partner. But why are we supporting a country? Our military is at their disposal. They should be a state. That's why I told Trudeau when he came down, I said, what would happen if we didn't do it? He said Canada would dissolve. Canada wouldn't be able to function if we didn't take their 20% of our car market. They send us hundreds of thousands of cars. They make a lot of money with that. And we don't need any of it. So I said to him, well, why are we doing it? He said, I don't really know. He was unable to answer the question, but I can answer it. We're doing it because of habit. And we're doing it because we like our neighbors and we've been good neighbors. And why should we have a $200 billion deficit and add on to that many, many other things that we give them in terms of subsidy? And I said, that's okay to have if you're a state. But if you're another country, we don't want to have it. We're not going to have it with European Union either.
As a Canadian listening to this, I wonder, if Canada has nothing the United States needs and is just a financial burden, why bring it in as a state? Canada's importance is measured in all that wasn't said. He sounds like the sleazy car salesman, assuring you your car's worth nothing on a trade-in, but because he likes you, he tosses you $1,000. Next day, it's on the lot for 10 grand. Trump wants to place crippling tariffs onto Canadian goods. Canada and the United States have fought side by side through many conflicts and offered each other help through crisis. I believe Trump has some good policies to improve America, but is financially destroying your neighbor a good look? The next target is BRICS. Trump stated any country moving to dethrone the United States dollar will face 100% tariffs, China being at the top of the list. BRICS is a threat to the US dollar as the global reserve currency. America has the world's largest military, and the ability to control the dollar is by far the most effective weapon they have. Tariffs, sanctions, and embargoes bring weaker countries to the will of the US quickly. Countries are moving to BRICS to escape the weaponization of the dollar. If Trump financially targets every country with trade and financial penalties to comply with his demands, we could in reality see further divide globally. His very aggressive stance seems dangerous at a time where so many conflicts are already ongoing. The US has been funding a war for 3 years in Ukraine, providing weapons to Israel while there is embers just waiting to flare up with Iran. Then there's China and Taiwan. The last administration left a nightmare of a puzzle to reassemble, leaving Trump a short 4 years to attempt to fix things. Guess we hope for the best and pray for peace. What do you guys think? Are we going to see some turmoil short term? Leave a comment and let me know.